All right, it's District Breakdown time, and once again, we're joined by my main guy, John Former from the Houston Chronicle. He's always with us. He's with us during the season. He's with us off the season. He's just with us. He's part of us, and I appreciate that, John. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to
Let's
be here.
let's talk taps. I know, well, man. I know we got 4 months before we even start anything, but let's talk. Start with the private schools and talk taps first because St. Thomas, they had that great season. They made it to the state title game. They, of course, ran into that buzzsaw that never seems to lose there in Paris Episcopal, but they got some replacing to do because they're going to miss out on Cardenas. The quarterback's gone as well. Talk about that team and maybe somebody else that may stick out in taps this year.
Yeah, St. Thomas had a great run this past season, as you mentioned, making it to the state championship game and coming up just short. But man, what an incredible run for the Eagles. They've been kind of on the precipice of breaking through to the state championship, and they finally made it there this past season. A lot of that had to do with the play of quarterback Dante Lewis. As you mentioned, he is departing. He's going to go play baseball at Kansas State. He's an incredible dual threat athlete, dual sport athlete, sorry. And so they're definitely going to miss him. And Johan Cardenas, our All Greater Houston Private School Offensive Player of the Year, is going to play football at Vanderbilt. So those are two key pieces of this championship team. This team that made a run to the championship that are gone now. Those two combined for nearly 5,000 yards of total offense, accounted for 76% of the Eagles' offense, just those two players combined. They lose some other pieces as well on offense and defense. So, they're gonna have to see if some players can step up and try to fill those big shoes. Obviously, Coach Rich McGuire has done a great job with that program, and year in and year out, they always seem to find a way to be successful. So, we'll see how they fare. TAPS Division One is always tough, especially once you get deeper in the playoffs and you're facing the likes of a Parish, Episcopal, and some of these other teams. But I would expect them to still be very competitive in their district and try to make another run here.
Yeah, and this year, I guess Liberty Christian and Jason Witten kind of move us up to Division One this year too. So that'll be another obstacle they have to find their way to get through. Moving on to SPC, last year it was all Houston final. It's happened a couple times over the last couple of years, but and those two guys are usually Kincaid and Bel Air Episcopal. And you talked about two sport athletes. Bel Air's Carson Gordon was another one, or I forget if it's Carson or Case, and you'll correct me, I'm sure. But that is another player that has to be replaced over there for the Knights. Talk about SPC, and are we going to look for some Houston teams to make it to the championship again?
Yeah, it's Carson Gordon. Come on, you
Okay,
gotta
I do get to
put
know.
some respect on his name.
I
Gosh,
need to hate myself. I
he's
hate
only
myself.
uh, he's only the top triple jumper in the entire country in the reigning Gatorade Texas Track and Field Athlete of the Year and a UCLA quarterback commit, um, or signee now. So he's going to be headed out west. He's got a lot of great things ahead of him in his future. He's been really an incredible athlete here in the Houston area for Episcopal the last 2 years after transferring over from Ridgepoint. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's a big loss. They also lost a really talented player in linebacker Ty Blevins, one of the top defensive players, private school players in the country. Um, sorry, in the Houston area. And then their coach, Steve Lees, has retired. He's had a lot of success there, and he's stepping down now. So, it's going to be really tough to replace some of those pieces. But Episcopal, kind of like St. Thomas, always finds a way to be really competitive in the SPC. They have a great track record. And they return a really talented running back in Brandon Thomas, who had 30 total touchdowns last year. So I would expect for them to be in the mix. And then Kincaid is always in the mix as well. Even after, they lose some talent and you're like, who's going to step up and play running back or quarterback, or, who's going to replace this awesome defensive player that they had. They always seem to find guys and always be competitive in the SEC. And, their coach, Nathan Learned, does a great job over there as well. And they're always competitive. And, obviously they were right in the mix there with Episcopal in the SBC championship game. And then, another team to kind of keep an eye on that, was competitive this past year was St. John's. And They have a really talented running back coming back as well, and Cole Allen, who had 31 total touchdowns, really burst onto the scene as a sophomore and continued to play at a high level as a junior. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on, and I feel like they're a team to keep an eye on as well.
Excellent. And then you get, I believe St. Thomas said, Coach Rich McGuire said they're going to try to play Bel Air Episcopal this non-district schedule, and that'll be fun. And of course, you can't talk about St. Thomas unless you want to talk about that crazy game against Paris Episcopal. I think they scored like 70 points in 2 or 3 of their games last year. So they are going to have to fill in some offensive holes, but it's usually not a problem for them offensively. They usually can. They have guys. They have a system that they can run that will put up points, and that always keeps the fans coming back. That's
you mentioned St. Thomas and Episcopal playing each other. I really would have loved to see that matchup this past season with how good both of those teams were and those two quarterbacks. Unfortunately, we didn't get that matchup, but maybe we'll have some good clashes here in the future.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Hey, John, next week we're going to talk about the lower classifications, 3A, 4A, and you don't need to look them up, but we'll be talking about DJ Sanders for sure over there at Belleville. What a monster. We'll talk about him next week. I appreciate you joining us, and I will see you next week.
All right, sounds good.